Hello, hello, ladies. I look like I'm in some kind of white tunnel with this lighting, but we'll make it work. I didn't set up my big ring light like normal, so I think this will work okay. We'll make it work. What is up? What is up, ladies? How are y'all doing on this Transformation Tuesday? It's Wednesday for some of you. Deb, how's the future looking? I love my ladies from the other side of the world. Hey, Christina, good to have you on tonight. Yay. Karen, Blaze, I love it. Shannon is on. Woohoo. Juju's here. Deb, all my Debs. Almost all my Debs, I think. I love it. All right. I got a good one for y'all tonight. Pep Talks. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, let's see. Before we dive in, let me make sure I can see my notes, because I've got notes for y'all tonight. Here we go. All right, so before we dive into tonight's topic, which is all about getting through the rest of the holidays without having to start over and start fresh in the new year because you messed up and you lost your gains and you put back on all the weight you worked so hard to get off all year. Tell me a little bit about how your journey has been going. I know about some of you because I see it in your check-ins and in the group, but I don't know about all of you. So have you been staying on point this holiday season? Have you had some on again, off again stuff? Have you totally fallen off the rails and really need help getting back on? Where are you at? Juju, yes, I know. we had quite the chat today, back and forth. So I know all about your situation. She's crushing it, by the way. Juliana is crushing it. A lot of you are crushing it. I've been seeing the updates and it's been awesome to see. And actually, that's one of the things I wanted to start with tonight, is that at the end of the day, this whole talk tonight is going to be about excuses, okay? I've got clients that are killing it, reaching new heights in their journey, achieving new things, new milestones, killing it, killing the game, staying on point. Karen, great example. She has been killing it with making all these recipes, serving it to the other family members and bringing it to events. I mean, Juliana just hit a major milestone in her journey. So my ladies in the build, my private clients, I'm seeing a lot of wins. So I want to share that because I don't want to make anybody feel bad if you have been on and off, or if you've been struggling, or if you've been taking some back steps, because it happens. It happens to all of us at different times. And all of my ladies have had that happen from time to time. But I want to point that out because the holidays, if you take nothing else out of tonight, the holidays are no different than any other time of year. I have clients who are crushing it, and I have clients who are struggling. And that happens all year long. All year, I have a segment of clients who are doing fantastic and a segment of clients who are really struggling. And we are back every week trying to pull them out of the hole. So I want you to know, we're going to get into a lot of the tough love here tonight, because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is your mind. What you believe, what you make happen, because it is 100% within your control at all times. There is never a time where you do not control what goes into your body and how you move your body and how you take care of yourself. So I want to get into the top 3 excuses around the holidays that I hear from clients that are the exact same excuses I hear from clients all year long. And you can probably guess what those three are. And if you don't want to call them excuses because you want to feel better about it, we can call it challenges or obstacles. Who can guess what you think the top three things are that I hear from clients when they have done something throughout the week or throughout the weeks that have taken them off plan? There's three big things, kind of big overarching themes that we tend to talk about a lot at the holidays, but I'm going to get into all the other seasons of the year and you'll see how these things are pervasive throughout the entire year. Oh, boom, I'm seeing some of them. All right, we've got, let's see, stress, lack of sleep, no time, I was busy, gatherings, stress, time, food pushers, family pressure, stressed here. Yes, okay. Y'all hit the nail on the head. I think all three of them are in there. Number one, busyness. I'm busy, no time, right? Huge thing we talk about at the holidays, because what happens at the holidays? We have all these extra things going on, right? Extra social engagements, extra gift buying and decorating and all of these other things that come up around this time. But I hear busyness all the time. We're always busy. You're going to be busy when school starts. You're going to be busy at the holidays. You're going to be busy around Easter. There's holidays all throughout the year that we end up busy. When school gets out, summertime. So it's always a season of busyness. Work, being busy at work. There's heavier work times during the year. So there's always this, I'm so busy, right? And here's the thing. If you're waiting to not be busy to take action on your goals, you will be waiting forever. There's not going to be a time where you're not busy. So I like to say, all right, where are we now? What's coming up now? This is what I always ask clients in check-ins. What's coming up this week? Let's look at these micro time spans, small time spans, the immediate next 7 days. What's coming up? Because sometimes we do have surprises. You know, something happens to the car. Now you got to get it fixed. Now it's creating more problems, right? Oh, so many of y'all. Somebody drops off a grandchild. Oh, here we go. Now you got to rejigger your whole day, and it's crazy. So there's always kind of unexpected busyness. But a lot of it, we know what's coming. If we just look ahead just a few days, just the next day, every day before I go to bed, I look at my calendar for the next day. What do I have tomorrow? Because my days as a coach are not always the same. It's very different than once upon a time, my 9 to 5. I knew where I was going to be all the time for the most part. So look at the day ahead, look at the week ahead, and plan ahead. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to get into some practical, tangible things to do during this season to not backtrack. And we're going to talk about, of course, my favorite, the mental side of it. All right, so busyness, number one. Number two, some of you hit this nail on the head as well, social engagements. All the family gatherings, all of the work gatherings, all of the Christmas parties, the holiday parties, all of that stuff, right? But guess what? What happens in the summertime? Y'all are out and about, you're vacationing, you're getting together. Oh, it's more social. Now I have to worry about all of these events, right? For those of you with kids in school, you have back to school, and then you have all of these theme days and things you have to do for your kids' school at different seasons. There's always a season. You might have kids in activities. And so when their sports season picks up, now you're running around, driving them everywhere to practices and games. And exactly, Christina, it never ends. It never ends. So the social engagement, it ain't just the holidays, and it's not a surprise. You know, every single year it's coming. It's going to happen. It's kind of like when we make the excuse that it was our cycle. Ladies, oh, my cycle. Okay, how old are you? How long have you been having a cycle? And yes, at all different seasons of your life cycle, your cycle changes. So yes, we will have, once again, kind of the unexpected cycle changes, but the fact that we all have a cycle of some sort in some way, shape, or form, and that our hormones are changing throughout the month should not be a surprise to us at this point in time. So these things cannot, in and of themselves, ever take us off plan. What I always like to talk about is taking massive responsibility for whatever you're doing and not doing. And not ever letting something else be the thing that made you do it, because nothing made you do it. Nothing made you skip doing it if it's your workouts, for example, right? You are the one making the decisions. I chose not to do this. I chose to do this. I chose to eat this. I chose to not eat breakfast, whatever it might be. Own that, because just in owning that alone, there's going to be some shitty feelings, honestly, coming along with that when you make choices that are not aligned with where you're trying to go. You're going to feel that disalignment, and ultimately what it is you're out of integrity with yourself. And until you're ready to get into that and feel that and recognize you're making your bed, it's easy to hide and make excuses and say all these things outside of me are causing me to not be able to do this. The truth is you are perfectly capable at all times. The holidays are no different than any other time. Your ability to follow through with the plan is just as strong as it ever was. And for my ladies who think that you don't have the ability, you don't have that belief in yourself, the first thing you need to work on is the belief that you can. And then you have to get some evidence that you can by following through. So if you're feeling down and out, like, oh, I can never stick to it, the most important thing you need is a win. So get mad about it and say, you know what, I'm going to stick to it. Even if it's just one difficult day that I stuck to it, now I have proof that I can. And once you have that evidence, you can lean on that. All right, I'm jumping ahead, but number 3, the biggest one, really should probably be number 1 because you all said it, stress. Who isn't stressed? Who here has no stress in your life? You're like, I'm not stressed at all. I'm never stressed. I don't feel any stress ever. Or you don't feel any stress all year long, and then around the holidays, all of a sudden you're stressed out of nowhere, and it's the only time it happens. Yeah, exactly. Laughing. I love it. Crying, laughing emoji, because we all have stress around us every single day. Yep. So the real question when it comes to the stress, because that's really more of an mental emotional thing, the practical, tangible stuff can attack the first 2, the busyness and the social engagements. We can talk about some practical, tangible things you can do in that situation. But when it comes to the stress, the only way that stress is getting in your way is that it is triggering you to do something unhealthy. That's usually what people mean when they say the stress got to me, right? The stress got to me, and so I ate the cookies. The stress got to me, so I skipped my workout, right? So really what's happening there, the question you have to ask yourself is, how can I begin to handle stress differently? So I don't find myself at the bottom of a bag of cookies next time I feel that stress. Because we all have it. It's just, how are we managing it? How are we handling it when it comes up? Right, or booze, even worse. Poison. Okay, so let's get into some of the things you can do about this. The biggest, and there's 2 pieces. One thing in each category. It's interesting, this concept has come up quite a few times. For my ladies in the build, you're going to hear it tomorrow when I do your feedback for the week, because it came up again there, and I'm going to give you a really good example there. And I thank you all for being honest and vulnerable in your check-ins, because it allows me to have examples that make it really easy for others to understand as well. There are the fewer things, the fewer to-do list items, the fewer things you can give yourself to focus on, the more your likelihood of following through with them increases. If you give yourself a list of, okay, when every week with my clients, I ask, what's your plan of action for the week? If your plan of action includes a 12-point plan, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. Good luck checking one thing off that list. And I guarantee you, if you have a list of 10 or 12 things, and you only check off 10 out of the 12, which would be a lot, and I wouldn't even expect it to happen with a list that long, but let's say you get 6 or 8 or 10, you're going to feel like a failure. And now it's much less likely you're going to follow through with anything else. So 1 to 3 things to focus on at a time. The low-hanging fruit, the things that are going to make the biggest difference that week, that short period of time. I love one thing because it's really in your face. I have ladies who binge, who are still struggling with binging. If binging is the thing that's throwing you off, and you're also struggling with your workouts, and you're also struggling with all these other things, and you have this list of 10 things you need to do to get back on track, I would say to that person, the only thing I want you to do this week is not binge. That is your one focus area, because that is the biggest problem. And as long as you have 9 other things on that list, what you're really doing is trying to distract yourself from the one thing you really need to be focused on. So I love identifying the one thing that you know, if you were to write down, where were all of my challenges last week? And this is another thing I ask in my check-ins. What were your challenges, the obstacles that got in your way last week? If you write down all those things and you look ahead and you say, okay, what's likely to get in my way again? And you look at that whole list and you say, okay, out of this list of things that got in my way last week, whittle it down to maybe, if let's say there's 8 things on that list last week that got in your way. And you look ahead and you're like, you know what? Okay, this upcoming week, some of those things are not going to be here anymore. That was last week. So this week, I could anticipate that maybe there are 5 things that are going to get in my way. I would ask you to look at that 5 things and give each one a score. How big of a deal are each of those things? If you allow all of those things to get in your way again, which one is going to make the biggest difference? And then take that one, circle it, highlight it, forget about the rest of them, and only focus on the thing that has been the biggest problem. If you always look at it that way, you will be leaps and bounds ahead in the next few months. And you can reevaluate every week because it could be a different thing next week. So every week, look ahead and say, all right, what's going to be the biggest challenge this week? Let me only focus on that. Make sure that I master that. And you will be heads and shoulders above where you are now in just a few months. This is how people get out of debt. So if you think about, like, you have a plan to get out of debt, and you have credit card debt, and you have student loan debt, and you have house mortgage, and you have car payment, and you have all these debts. What that person is going to tell you, that advisor that you meet with, they're going to ask you about interest rates. Which one of those things has the highest interest rate? And fees if you're late, and all of those things, because that's the stuff that's compounding that's going to make it a lot worse if you don't address that first. So they usually have you look at either taking the biggest debt, what is the highest amount that you owe, or the largest interest rate. They're going to have you focus on one credit card at a time or one debt at a time. And they may have you put a little bit toward the others, but they're going to have you mostly put your focus and your energy and your money toward that one big thing. Then you knock that out, and now it's worlds better to deal with the rest of the debt. So think about it like that. Your health and fitness is just like debt. Where is your biggest debt? Where is your biggest interest rate? If you don't do this thing, how much more are you going to have to pay next week? Yes, Christina, exactly. Smaller goals forward. It's so attainable, and you feel amazing for accomplishing them. Evaluation at the end. I love this, Nat. Yes, 100%. You have to find the wins, and you have to celebrate it. That's another big thing we do every week. The first question I ask is for your wins. And I tell everyone, you are not allowed to give me less than 3 wins. Because what's going to happen if I don't put that number on there, they're going to say, I don't have any wins this week. And then they're going to go down to the challenges and they're going to give me a list of 10 challenges, things that didn't go well. They're not going to acknowledge any of the work that they actually did that week and the progress they actually made. They're not even going to notice it because they're going to be so focused on the challenges. So identify the smallest thing you can do, the one thing you can do to make progress, and then give yourself a huge party for it. Like in your head, celebrate yourself. Just feel that pride any way you can. Oh my gosh, I'm amazing. I put on my sneakers and I got to the gym today. I didn't do anything. I came right back home, but guess what? I put on my sneakers and I went to the gym. Y'all, I have that happen sometimes where I just walk to the gym, I go sit in the sauna, and I walk back. And then I give myself a big old celebration for it. Because you've got to feel good about what you are doing, or else I'm going to hear what I always hear from a lot of clients is, I feel like I'm doing so much and I'm not getting any results. Okay, let's break it down. What did you do? What did you not do? Let's be real about it. Because what we need to do is give ourselves a lot of credit for the things we are doing and also hold ourselves accountable and responsible for the things we're not doing. And if we're always critical about the things we're not doing and we're not celebrating, we now don't have that balance. So we've got to have both. Right. Dave Ramsey is totally different from most people. And he says, pay the smallest debt first. So that's a good example, though. That's another good example. Because that would be like saying, okay, what's the simplest thing I can do? Because sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, the biggest thing that you're struggling with, let's say the binges, it can be too big of a thing. And what happens is you have a lot of resistance inside toward taking action on that thing. There's all this emotional attachment hung up in it that you may not even be aware of. And so you realize you keep focusing on all these other things because you just don't really want to deal with it. So you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And that's why I say to focus on the big rock. Because as long as that's a problem, you can do all the little mini things you want to. But your health and fitness is not going to move forward if you keep having this big, huge boulder in your way. So it can't always work out that way. But let's say you're not doing anything yet. Right? You have this kind of like analysis paralysis. And you're looking at all of it, and the overwhelm of it is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you don't want to deal with the big thing, but you need to do something to move you forward and make you feel good. That's what the Dave Ramsey way does. Because you take something tiny and you knock it off, and now you feel good about it. So you can move on to the bigger things. So this is a lot where a lot of these things, it takes knowing yourself, and we're going to get into that on the practical, tangible side of it in a minute. But eventually, you have to deal with that big rock. And for like binging is such a perfect example because you can nail your macros perfectly and then screw it all up with one binge. You can nail your macros all week long, binge on Saturday, and then set yourself back for the entire week. You can nail all your workouts. You can get all your steps in. You can get perfect sleep. You can nail and dial in all that other stuff, but if you're still binging, you're not going to make progress. So, but if, let's say, being able to measure out your foods makes you feel good about yourself, getting your workout done makes you feel better about yourself, and then you're in a place where you're like, you know what, I'm ready to deal with the binging because of all that, that's great. So you do have to know yourself. But that stuff is still going to be there. So eventually it has to be tackled. All right, so let's get into the practical, tangible stuff when it comes to particularly the busy season, which is really always, and dealing with social engagements, family, and all that. So it's one piece of advice because we're focusing on one thing here. Because 100% of the time, this one piece of advice is going to suffice for any situation, really. Any situation, any season. Make a plan in advance. I think the number one revelation that clients have when they start working with me, when they start tracking macros for the first time, or they just start trying to lower their carbs for the first time, or start working out consistently for the first time, they very quickly realize that if they don't have a plan in advance, it ain't gonna happen. Good luck hitting your protein macro without a plan. You can't just wing it and hope that things are gonna line up correctly. All of my ladies who don't plug in their food at the beginning of the day into their tracker or the day before always end up at the end of the day, oh, I blew my fat macro out of the water. I didn't come close to my protein. I went over on carbs. Yeah. Unless you've been doing this for years so consistently and so well that you know it all like the back of your hand. Hello, I could do it pretty easily these days, but that's 8 years later. 8 years of doing this. Pretty damn consistently. So yeah, it's going to happen when you're not planning in advance. So the number one thing is always, and then you can literally apply this to anything. You have a Christmas party to go to. What's your plan? You're going to see family. You're going on a trip. You're going to be there for a few days. Where are you? Okay, you know what? This is where I got to give Juliana a lot of credit because she's an overthinker. But my girl gets detailed with her plan. She's like, all right, we're going to be here. We're driving through there. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to see what's on the way. What can I bring? What can I make in advance? I'm going to have to freeze that. Competitions are a really good example. What I learned after years of trial and error was, oh, I'm going to go get an electric pan that I can bring into the hotel room. I can plug it in. I can cook all my meals. That way, I don't have to worry about where am I going to get food. If I have to eat restaurant food before my show, I don't know how my body's going to react to it. I can control all the variables. I'm going to look up where the show is. I'm going to look up where I'm staying, what grocery stores are nearby. Do I have time? When am I going to have time to stop at the grocery store to get my stuff, to stock up the room? So all of my ladies who've had success, they've had success because they planned first. Exactly. Don't leave your stuff in your freezer. I've done it myself before. Left it at home. Almost always, if it's in the freezer, I'm going to leave it. I almost brought stuff to my family this Thanksgiving, and I didn't even buy it because I was like, that has to go in the freezer. I'm not going to remember it, and I'm going to bother. And hey, guess what? I ended up finding it at a local grocery store near them for cheaper because it was on sale after the holiday. And I was like, and then I bought it, and then we made them. And they were like these really clean ingredient cookies. And they were really yummy. In case y'all need, here's another little practical, tangible thing. I think they were a little bit higher on carbs because I can't remember what flour they used. It was gluten-free, dairy-free, all the things, but a little bit higher on carbs. It was the Laura's, shoot, I'll have to find the picture and post it in the group. But it was, they had all different ones for the holidays. So I got some of those, the gingerbread and the peppermint chocolate peppermint, whatever, to share with the family. So let's get into some of those like kind of nitty gritty things, right? With the planning. First and foremost, the most important thing with the planning, you have to know yourself and you have to know what you're going to need to be successful. So I'm talking about two specific groups of people, my moderators and my abstainers. And y'all know I've talked about on past videos, I don't like the whole I am a this and I can't change and I can't ever be a that. So I don't love labels, but just for the sake of the conversation, let's use those labels, the moderators and the abstainers. For my ladies who are like, I know I'm not going to sit at that table and look at all that dessert and not have any. And then I'm going to leave there feeling like I missed out. And then I'm going to go buy some junk and I'm going to binge my face off because I didn't just eat the cookies I wanted to eat at the table when everybody else was having it. Maybe your plan needs to be a moderation plan. Maybe you go into the holiday event saying, here's my plan. I'm going to moderate now. I'm going to moderate is not a plan. That is an intention. And that's great. A plan starts with an intention. But what is the actual action plan? How are you going to keep from over consuming? What are you going to do? What are the practical steps that you are going to do? Lay out step by step your plan. Number one, I'm not going to fast before dinner at the family, because if I fast, I'm going to go into that dinner starving and I'm going to eat everything around me. So you have to know yourself and understand your goal for that, or your intention, and then make your plan according to that intention that aligns with you. So if you're going to moderate, make your plan. I'm going to have a high protein meal before I go, because when I eat at other people's homes, they generally don't have enough protein, and I'm not going to go eat all of the entree and not leave any for anybody else because I need to hit my protein macro. So I'm going to have a protein meal earlier in the day. So I go into that dinner not too hungry, and I know I'm going to hit my protein macro for the day. Maybe I'll bring a dessert to contribute. It could be a keto dessert. It could be a carnivore dessert. It could be a high protein dessert. But I'm going to make something that I know I can eat so that I won't go crazy on everybody else's stuff. And then my plan in advance is, what are the things I really care about? Here's a good example for me. If it's a dessert that I absolutely love, I know for me it would be better to enjoy a portion of it at that table with everybody else, slowly and really savor it, so that at the end of the night, I'm not feeling like I need to go get anything anywhere else. And I usually like to make and bring my own thing. I can't always do that. I didn't do it at Thanksgiving, but I have done it in the past. So I might say, okay, I'm going to have a slice of the thing I brought, or I'm going to have a cookie that I brought, or whatever. And then I'm going to allow myself one serving of X, Y, or Z if they have these. If it is not these 3 things that I love, if it's something I don't like, I'm not going to eat it just because it's there. If there was a key lime pie or a lemon meringue, I wouldn't touch it because I don't like it any day of the year. So you can say, based on knowing yourself, what is your specific plan? Yeah. Oh, I love it. Juliana, I had 1 spoonful of Mama's yams. There was a marshmallow. Gasp. That was it. And I maintained my whole trip. Yes, ma'am. And that's the thing, is you can, especially if you're going somewhere you've been before, you know the people, you kind of know what they might have. And you say, oh, so and so's making a pecan pie. I definitely want to have a slice of that, right? But you've got to make a solid plan, because here's the other thing. There's a concept, there's a book by this name. One of my clients mentioned it to me a while back, called Bright Line Eating. And their whole concept is very similar to Glenn Livingston's Never Binge Again, which is another, I'm a fan of that as well. But the power in both of those concepts is that they're drawing very hard lines. You create this plan that has hard lines, clear lines, not these blurry lines that when you're in the situation, you can be like, well, but if this, then that. No, I said this is the plan. And now you're confronted with a decision. I'm either going to follow my plan or I'm not. There's no gray area. There's no, well, it's kind of my plan because I said maybe if I did this, then no. Don't let yourself wiggle out. Make a hard plan. And then with that mentality I talked about, that ownership, that responsibility, and that accountability, in the moment, you now have to decide if you're going to continue to follow it, or if you're going to make the choice to jump off the train. You know, when y'all are like, oh, I fell off the wagon. No, you didn't. You willingly jumped off the wagon, and you have to start acknowledging that. And the other powerful concept to adopt is when you make a plan, you're already making the decision. There really is no decision to make later. You're making the decision and you're making the commitment before you go there. So when you go there, you don't have to make another decision. I already made the decision. My decision's made. I can rest in that confidence, and that's all there is to it. When you allow yourself and you have the mentality that I made this plan, but maybe I'll change my mind in a minute. You've already decided you're not sticking with the plan. You might as well throw the plan out. The plan is not a maybe. Because sometimes I see that. Here's my plan for the week. And then, well, I didn't follow my plan. What's going on here? So you didn't really want to do it in the first place. Sometimes a lot of y'all give yourselves an out before you even get started. And if you're going into it with that mentality, you already know you're not going to stick to it. So you might as well be honest with yourself. And let yourself go there. If you're making a plan and you're looking at the plan on the page and you're like, and by the way, I think 99% of you have not written it down. Make it in your mind. And you don't tell anyone, you don't say anything, you don't write it down, right? Which is only going to make it so much easier to not follow it. But let's say you did. You wrote it down, you're looking at it on the page. You're going to feel something inside. You're either going to feel confident about it, or you're going to have like this pit in your stomach of like, I know I don't want to do that. So sit with that. Allow yourself to feel that and say, what's going on here? What's this resistance about? Don't let yourself off the hook. Read it, write it down, read it on the page and say, why do I not want to do what I just said I was going to do? Why am I saying I'm going to do this if I know within my rebel is already rising up? Like, no, we're not doing that. Forget that. Say, okay, what's going on here? Let's have a conversation as if it's another person. As if that voice is another person, because it really is. It's not you. It's your limbic brain. It's that emotional survival brain. It's not you. Give it a name and have a conversation. Say, what's going on with you today? I like Felicia, because then you can be like, bye, Felicia. But it's not that simple. You can't just be like, shut up, because it's not going to shut up. And this is really getting us into the mental emotional side, because the truth is you can make a plan all you want, but sometimes y'all make plans and then it goes by the wayside. And then you make a plan again and it goes by the wayside. It just keeps on happening that way. And that's not going to get you anywhere. So the first thing you got to do is address what is coming up for me. When I'm saying I'm going to meet my macros this week, and that voice inside is like, no, you're not. Come on, stop lying. By Wednesday, I'm going to get you off plan. You need to start listening, tuning in and listening to what that voice is saying, because that's where all the answers are. So here's number 2. Number 1 was you make that plan. Get really real with yourself and make a plan that aligns with you that you can feel confident about. Number 2, because if you are feeling really confident when you make the plan, I can guarantee you that confidence is not going to last all week. There will be moments in your week where that voice of sabotage will step up and it will get loud and you will start doubting your plan or doubting sticking to your plan. So what you need to do is not have the rose-colored glasses when you set the plan and say, oh, it's all going to be hunky-dory and rainbows and butterflies and all is going to work perfectly. That is bullshit. It's never going to happen that way. So prepare when you make the plan. Number 2 is prepare for the voice of sabotage to try to take you off plan, because it will happen. So you first want to identify, what is that little annoying voice going to say to try to get me to do something else. Try to come up with every single scenario you possibly can of what that voice is going to say to you. Write it all down. I'm going to end up busy, going here, there, and everywhere. By the time I get to the place, I'm going to be starving, and then I'm just going to land face first into a cheese ball and crackers. Or, so the voice is going to be saying, oh, you're so hungry. You didn't eat all day. You can afford it. Or you could just fast tomorrow. Or just do extra cardio this week. It'll all be okay. Or I know your plan was abstinence, but let's switch that plan to moderation. Really big, important rule of making plans. You are not allowed to change the plan in the middle of the event. Once the plan is set, the plan is set. Because the emotional brain will try to change the plan, and that's just a tactic to get you to not follow the plan. You're not allowed to make decisions under emotional circumstances. And that's a good advice for life when it comes to anything. When emotions are high, it's not the time to make decisions. So you've got to prepare for it to be hard. This is why so many of us are attached or attracted to challenges. Ooh, 45-day challenge, 30-day challenge, 21-day challenge, right? Because it sounds so exciting and we get all excited and then we're all motivated at the beginning. And so when we're motivated, we make these big plans and we're like, I want it to be a really hard, really intense thing with all these things I have to do. And here's my big long checklist and I'm going to crush it. And then day 2, you're like, all of a sudden emotions are high. What were you thinking? This is crazy. Don't do that. And then you just jump ship and never check in and never do anything with the challenge. And then you just ghost the whole group because you don't feel good about yourself because you didn't show up and do the first thing. Because you were not prepared for it to be hard. We thought it was going to be easy because we felt excited about it. Oh, I love this. Debbie, I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. She said, I'm tired of dealing with hard. When does it get easy? Does anybody else feel like that? I have a feeling many of you do. Because 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, when clients go off the rails or start ghosting me, I know that that's where they landed, was right there, was I am exhausted. I don't want to keep doing this. I need a break. And actually, I would probably add that to the third excuse at this time of the year that really can happen any time of year. I'm tired. I need a break. Right? That's what it feels like. This is so hard. I'm doing all this work. I need a break. When does it get easy? Hate to tell you, love, it doesn't. It doesn't ever get easy. Really, you can kind of look at it in 2 ways. You could say, it's never going to get easy. Deb, yes, life is never easy. And when it is, it's time for a shakeup. I love that, right? Because we don't grow in easy. And in my opinion, we are here on this earth to grow as humans, to become our highest selves. And we can't do that without difficulty. But there are 2 ways you can look at this. You can say, this is hard. I want it to be easier. You could either embrace and say, it's always going to be hard. And I just get better at it. And then it doesn't feel as hard because I get better at it. Just like training in the gym. First time you ever did a squat probably felt pretty difficult. First time you tried any new lift, anything new in the gym, it felt difficult. The more and more and more you do it, the better you get at the mechanics of the movement, the stronger you physically get, the more weight you can lift. And now the 5-pound dumbbells feel heavy, and now you got to pick up the 10-pound dumbbells. right? It's not about, I mean, are you just going to settle in and say, I'm just going to use 5-pound dumbbells for the rest of my life? They feel damn easy now, so I'll just stay here. You're not ever going to grow muscle that way. You're not going to get better that way. You're not going to improve, right? But the other way you can look at it is this, and this is how I challenge the ladies in the shred. It is only ever as hard or as easy as you decide it is. So the real answer to that question, when does it get easy? It's when you decide it's easy. And I know that sounds easier than it actually is, but that decision of how you're looking at things, your perception, it changes everything. I can certainly say that the longer you keep junk food out of your life, the easier it is to not go buy junk food. I don't have the attachment to sweets that I once did living this lifestyle. I would have said that was hard a long time ago. Not that long ago, I would have said it was hard. And every single time I do start allowing sweeter things into my diet and develop that taste for them again, especially if they're highly processed, packaged, engineered to be addictive, guess what? It's going to be hard for me to take them out again. It's going to be hard for me to reduce the amount that I'm consuming, right? When I get sick, like I just was, and try to get back to the gym, it's going to be hard at first until I finally get back to 100%. And I'll tell you what, my workout the other day felt amazing, and it took weeks to get back there. And I'm not lifting what I was lifting before. I'm not comparing myself to that. But it was the first time a workout really felt good to me again without feeling exhausted. So truly everything in life. You know what's really crazy is I look back at when I worked a full-time 9 to 5 job and how stressed I felt and how burned out I was. And I can look back now and say, wow, if I had somehow had somebody in my life who could have woken me up to have a different perspective about my life back then, I had a really beautiful life. I was so critical of my life back then. I wouldn't go back and change anything because I got this honey right now that I really enjoy being with, and I love my life in Virginia now. But I had a good job, I had a great place, I had a good life, I had friends, and I was into the church. I had all kinds of cool things going on. And at the time, I was so stuck in this, like, I couldn't be content with that. I felt something different. I felt stressed. I felt it truly, though, is our choice how we feel every day. So think about the things that feel hard to you right now, and I would make a list of them. And I encourage you to in the build group, drop this in the forum and let's talk deeper about it. Let's really workshop through it. What are the things that feel really hard that you want to make feel easier? I know this was a huge revelation Juliana had in the shred. It was like, oh, I'm making this harder than it needs to be. I'm stressing myself out. A lot of the time, we are putting that on ourselves. And when we can start looking for okay, if this feels hard to me, what can I do to make it feel easier? Everything that your brain brings up for you, everything that your mind, and really it's that emotional brain that's doing that to you because it wants you to jump ship, go back to what you were doing before that got you in a place you didn't want to be. I always like to remind everyone we were doing that. We were living that unhealthy lifestyle a lot longer than we've been living this healthy lifestyle, myself included. And I started getting healthy at the end of my 30s, or excuse me, at the end of my 20s. I was 28, 29 years old when I finally decided to really focus and change my lifestyle. So I was probably younger than most of you when I decided to make that change. But still, I'm only 40 now. So I still have not been living this lifestyle. I've been in this for 12 years now. I still have not been living this lifestyle longer than I was living my previous lifestyle. So for those of you who didn't start your journey until later than that, calculate those years. And then maybe you can kind of give yourself, exactly, I'm a baby. Maybe you can give yourself a little grace when you think about it like that. Damn, that was my programming for so long. I was programmed to live that way. So that's why it feels hard, because I still haven't been doing this longer than I was doing that. OMG, Juju has a birthday coming up. Yay. 42, baby. You're going into 42. Having hit your milestone. I love it. Okay, so let's see. I guess I got to wrap it up. It's been about an hour. But basically, what I'm sharing here is the same thing I've shared in many other places. The most important thing on this journey, if you do nothing else, because the practical, tangible tips and advice are always going to be there. But the whether or not you're going to follow those things, follow the plan, make the plan, follow the tips. You could sign up with me, you get macros and a training plan, but if you're not going to do it, it's not going to have the results. You're not going to get the results, right? So you've got to address that pesky emotional brain that doesn't want you to win. And it's not like it's against you. It's just that our brain is all about survival mechanisms. And that limbic brain, it's the survival brain, the lizard brain, the monkey brain, whatever you want to call it, the primate. It is thinking new and different is scary and risky. So it tries to keep you safe by keeping you in the familiar. And those lifelong unhealthy habits are still more familiar to your limbic brain than the healthy habits. So the best thing you can do to keep making this easier is to keep taking the steps every day. Because the more you practice the new habit, the more you release the old habit. So try to identify all of those thoughts of sabotage and start writing down your rebuttals to them. When my brain says this, I'm going to ask it this. I like to ask questions rather than making statements, because you can argue back and forth, but that may not do anything. If you ask your brain a question, it has to get busy answering it. So find the lie is the thing I always like to say. When it says, oh, you can have just one, say, wait a minute, is that really true though? Last time we did that, I ate 10. So I have evidence that eating just one it's not going to go that way. So yeah, let's not do that. So that's going to be a hard no. We're not going to eat just one. Try another excuse. All right, what else you got? Well, you can start over tomorrow. Well, is that true? Yes, I could start over tomorrow, but do I want to start over tomorrow? Do I want to have to keep starting over tomorrow? I don't really want to have to start over tomorrow. I just want to make progress today. You see how that works? You identify the thought, and then you have a conversation with it. Find the truth. Prepare yourself, because in those moments when that voice comes up, if you're not ready for those things that it's going to say, you're just going to listen to it without even thinking twice. So prepare yourself in advance. That's ultimately what this whole night was about. This was all about planning in advance and preparing for the voice of sabotage so you can follow through with the plan that you made. So I want to challenge you all to put these things into practice for the rest of this holiday season. And I want you to report back. Share in the group. How did it work? Did you try it? Because a lot of the time, I could probably say for every single person who doesn't end up being successful, They didn't do these things. They just didn't even try. So I don't want that to happen to you. Deb's asking, when are you going to let us in on the monthly subscription? I wanted to have it all ready by the 15th, which is only a few days away. Yikes. I'll just say by next week, because I probably will need the weekend to sort through and make some final decisions. But the quick details are that instead of the short-term programs I've been running, so the shred, the build, things like that, I'm going to shift into a membership model. So it will be a monthly membership. You can subscribe and unsubscribe at any time. And it will include all the same kinds of things we've been doing inside our program. So there will be weekly check-ins. There will be a training program to follow. There will be macros. You'll get assigned macros and a whole lot of education. Ladies can tell you, ladies who've been in the build, what that's like. In the app, there is a whole section with resources. So whenever I put out a new video resource or training resource or document, I share things in there along your journey. There's a forum, very much like Facebook, but it's inside the app where all the ladies can connect. And then, of course, we have Zoom calls every week. We have a weekly large group Zoom call. I record all of those. And the coolest part that I've really enjoyed, and I know a lot of my ladies have enjoyed, is that for the group, whenever they do check-ins, I do a video response to the check-ins as a group. So I'll go through all the check-ins and I'll go through, I'll share some wins, I'll share some insights, and I will respond to questions for support. And I'll give my thoughts on your plans of action for the week ahead. So a lot of the ladies say that they learn a lot of great things from the things that the other ladies in the group have asked. Sometimes, they'll have a check-in where they'll say, I don't know what to ask for in support this week. And that's okay, because you have a group of other ladies who are asking support questions, and usually you'll glean something from those. And for Rhonda, I know you'll be able to get in on this too, because all of my private clients who are currently on the Trainerize platform, I'll be bringing everybody onto Everfit, my platform where I host the group stuff. So everybody will be in the same group community in the app. Everybody will be able to join the Zoom calls together. So now all my clients will be in one place. For Deb A and for Rhonda and for my other private clients tuning in, I'll be sharing more details very, very soon about making that transition, what that will look like, and all that good stuff. So lots of fun stuff changing, but I think moving in a positive direction for 2024. So I'll be making that announcement inside the Facebook group. I will send emails, so you will not miss, I promise. So I'll have all the pricing information and all of that by next week. And for those of you in the group who have seen, I talked about sharing a live workshop on how to find your goal weight based on your body composition goals and set a timeline for reaching those goals. I'm going to do that this Saturday, Saturday the 16th. Yes, Saturday the 16th at noon Eastern. I'm going to post all of that information in the Facebook group. So I want you all to be able to join in on that live, because I know sometimes it can be tricky to work through formulas. So I'm going to give you my worksheet or cheat sheet with all the formulas in advance. So you'll have that in advance of the workshop, and then you can join live. And if you want to literally give me your numbers and I can help you work through it live, we can do it that way. But I will explain all of the formulas, how to do it, and we'll give lots of examples. So doing that on a weekend, and I'm doing it around noon, hoping to also be able to catch some of my ladies across the pond. So hopefully that's a good time. Stay tuned for that. And I think that's it for this week. This is a fun one. This was kind of more like a masterclass, wasn't it? And yes, I will be bringing back my masterclasses. I'm just going to be massaging the schedule and figuring out a better time to do those, and possibly a new day. Not sure yet, but I'll keep y'all updated on that as well. Thank you for tuning in. And in the meantime, go crush your goals the rest of this week. Tomorrow's hump day. Get it in. And if you have any other questions or need any support on anything, my ladies in the build, you know where to go. My private clients, you know where to go. And if you're in my Facebook group, use the Facebook group. Until next week, keep crushing it. And for Juliana, I can't end without a flex. Good night, ladies. Happy holidays.